Well, it's a new year, 2022, and this is our first council preview of this year, and I have Steve Barg, City Administrator, sitting next to me, and we're going to talk about the council meeting that's going to happen on the 11th of January, 2022.
Wow.
I can't believe it.
It's hard to say it sometimes, isn't it?
You have to say it a few times. That's why I kind of mention it. I don't write checks like I used to, but how many times back then?
You still put dates down sometimes, and it's hard to remember to put 2022.
Yep, almost did it last night on the finance meeting and put 2021 on the lower, and I caught myself before we started. So, yeah, you do think about it. So,
you do.
Yep. Well, let's get right into it. It's not going to be a long agenda at this point, although this is we tape this a Wednesday. Things can change in a day or two yet, so we try to do the best we can. We have to produce this a little bit earlier than when the final agenda goes out on Friday morning. But let's talk about staff updates. Why don't you talk about the person that's going to be here being introduced?
Yeah, Nikki Anderson is not new to the city, but she's new to city employment, Tom. Nikki has, for the last, I want to say about 3 years, maybe I'm wrong on that, but been the coordinator for Wenzel Family Plaza. Her role has been to get activities, events going on down there. You've probably seen concerts and various types of things that have been held on the grounds, and making sure that that's vibrant and well used. Nikki just does a wonderful job. She's very personable and great to deal with, and has been working very hard. But last year, Justin Casperson, our Parks and Recreation Director, brought forth the idea that it would be good to make her a city employee. There's been some issues about funding and oversight of her. She'd been under Main Street, but Main Street really didn't have the time and energy to be really overseeing that position. And so she'll now be in our city employment, working over in the 2nd Street Community Center at the direction of Justin Casperson. I think she actually works technically under Amanda Bruce, the recreation manager, and she'll still be doing largely what she's been doing. The new title is Event and Programming Coordinator. So again, what she's tasked with mainly, Tom, is let's make that great amenity used. Let's get concerts, let's get little mini festivals, let's get different events and activities out there and see people on the grounds. It's exciting when you drive down Chestnut and you see things happening there, and Nikki's at the heart of that, so we look forward to having her on board now as a city employee.
Yeah, look forward to that. I work with her quite a bit. She was in a leadership program that I helped with, and we still work on that project from time to time with that group, so which is really good.
Terrific person.
Yeah, and I'll just shout out, since we were talking about the Wenzel Plaza, is we should have ice skating open there on Friday.
That'll be exciting. That'll be fun. It's such a, we've have ice skating elsewhere, but there's something about being downtown with that little stage there and just the whole way it lays out. And then, again, there was a problem at the end of 2021, I think many people know, with the fountain that kids like to splash around in. That is being repaired and should be ready for the summer season.
All right, let's move on to consent agenda. Those are items that were in our committees and boards, right?
Yep.
And commissions?
Correct.
What's the first piece that you want to talk about?
Well, these two that we're going to talk about now came out of the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee. And I mentioned Nikki working at the 2nd Street Community Center. This one's about the 2nd Street Community Center, too. We have senior activities and programs over there. And we've had a person, Tom, that does some oversight of that, but it's been kind of what we call a casual temporary position. It's never had an official permanent status. So Justin Casperson brought forward the idea that if we really want to have a person there, stay there for a long time, and grow in the position, it would be good to give them permanent part-time status. So what the council has approved is making that a permanent part-time position, and last night the Finance Committee was favorable to setting a pay grade based upon our compensation evaluation and getting that all in place. So that was approved or recommended to the council for approval, and we'll see if they agree with the pay scale position and the way that that's been set up.
Okay, and you also have, you've been working with the Job Center quite a bit last few years, and there's a piece on here as well, right?
Yeah, we're still not leaving the 2nd Street Community Center. We're talking about the Job Center that's housed over there. They moved over there about 4 years ago, and the city has a partnership with North Central Wisconsin Workforce Development Board. That's a real mouthful. We normally call it by their initials. And they're out of the Wausau area, and they work with people in Marshfield, Rapids Point, and other surrounding communities, and to try and make sure that people have opportunities to find jobs, to find workers. And so they partnered with us for a while. What happens is the city pays 75% of the cost of having a part-time staff person at the center. and North Central pays the other 25%. So the city pays $12,500, and North Central pays about $4,500. And there's some things that had to be worked out initially. We got the State Department of Workforce Development involved. They are responsible for some of the phone and computer and technology issues that come up. So the three of us have made a partnership, and all this agreement really does, Tom, is carries it over for another year into 2022. So you say, well, is that even noteworthy? I think it is, because there have been some questions in the past about how effective the job center is. Is it something we want to continue? And yet we always come back to the fact that it serves a population in need. People who are trying to find resources, trying to find jobs. They want to get on the state computer system. They want to have someone to talk to about maybe helping them rewrite their resume. And that's what the part-time staff person does. So we're so glad to see that long-standing relationship continue, and glad to see the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee support it.
All right. And now Wood County's not a part of that, correct? That it has to do with that other entity you just mentioned, North.
Ed Wagner, one of our council members, is, I'm not sure if he's there because he's on Wood County Board of Supervisors or what brought him there, but he is a member of the North Central Wisconsin Workforce Development Board's directors. But there's no official tie with Wood County.
Okay, all right. Well, let's move out of consent and move right into a few of the items that you pulled out. Excuse me. Presentation, our development director, Josh Miller, is going to talk about future plans for MidState. Had to do with like an apprenticeship center, is that right?
Yeah, there's a lot of emphasis on higher education, but there's also a lot of emphasis lately on the tech schools, on learning trades, on all the opportunities. And MidState Technical College, Tom, just does a marvelous job. In the last couple of years, I've just been amazed watching how they've added more opportunities for people to grow and develop and get into certain professions. So what this is, it's called, and I'm going to read it because I don't want to mess it up, the Advanced Manufacturing, Engineering Technology, and Apprenticeship Center they're building. And it's going to be over on Highway 39 in Point. And you say, well, if it's being built at Stevens Point, why is it exciting for the city of Marshfield? MidState encompasses multiple communities, including us. We have a campus here, but they're all tied together. And any opportunities that are being provided at this new facility are going to be available to people who live in Marshfield and Wood County as well. And they really have a lot of things that are coming out of this. It's going to be, my gosh, I was going to read it here in a minute, and again, I apologize for that, but some of the new things that they're offering, some of the programs and some of the trades and skills, I'll get to it here in a second. I had the wrong page out, so I apologize to our viewers for a minute, but I am getting closer, I think. Well, maybe you have it and I don't. But there's a lot of, I brought too much to look at.
Right.
But some of the things are going to be, again, some new skills, some new opportunities, everything from welding to you name it, that they train people for, that they help them grow into some of the real, many times, clean technology jobs that are out there in 2022. And it's a multi-million-dollar project. Governor Evers was here recently to present a grant that the state is giving for this facility. That's how well recognized this project is. And even though I didn't find the page I was looking for, it's pretty cool.
All right, well, we'll find out more from Josh. Tune in on Tuesday night. We have Council Live, and Josh will give us some updates about it at that time.
And again, what Josh will be doing is he'll be introducing it, and then there'll be a representative from MidState. I'm not sure if it'll be Alex Landved or who, but somebody from MidState Technical College will be really walking through the particulars of what this center will be all about and why it's going to be beneficial to our residents.
Sounds good. We'll look forward to hearing more about that on Tuesday evening. All right, we do have a lot of paperwork here, Steve.
We do, and I kill a lot of trees, and then sometimes I can't find where the trees led to in terms of what I want.
You are one of those printers. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I do. And sometimes they tease me at City Hall because at the bottom of our on the computer it says, "Think before you print," and sometimes I feel like I print before I think. But in preparing for the program here, it's good to be able to look at the things we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of print and online, so I had a coworker in Rapids that just had piles of paper. He print, but That was funny. But anyway, we have a little chat in between this program. We got to do that, have a little bit of lightning. Again, if you're just joining us here, council preview for the 11th of January. Steve and myself here are talking about what's on the agenda. All right, we have a few more things before we exit. Let's talk about here a joint statement that could be on this agenda or the next one about a welcoming community. You
know, Thomas, like you said, we do these tapings a little bit early, and the agenda's not finalized. I'm expecting that either on the meeting on January 11th, this next one we're talking about, or January 25th, that the item that was talked about back in late November will come back. Now, for those of you who follow us, you may recall that right before Thanksgiving, I presented a potential welcoming statement that's been embraced by Mackey and the local UWSP, campus. Also endorsed, so to speak, by the clinic and talked about by other entities too, kind of a community-wide effort. And that is to make a statement that we're a welcoming community, that we recognize and appreciate diversity, those types of things. So I actually presented it online, so to speak, on Zoom from Alabama. Back on the 23rd, I was visiting relatives. And the council had some questions at that time. They didn't reject the idea, but they really wanted to hear somebody more directly involved in the movement. They had questions about how is the statement going to be used? Is it going to be used in certain publications or pamphlets? Does it obligate the city to positions? I mean, if we say, well, this all sounds good, does it mean that someone's going to come back to us in a few months and say, well, now we want $25,000 because here's a project we're going to do, and then the council feels like they don't feel like we can do it for some reason, and yet somebody's going to say, well, it's because we're a welcoming community and this is how it's going to help us. I'm extrapolating more than the council said, but they want to know, where does this lead? Why are we doing it, and where does it go in the future? Which are good questions. So, like I said, Scott Larson and Michelle Bornke are likely to be there, maybe others on behalf of the request, to explain in more depth, why are we doing it? What is the reason? It's not because we have a bad community now. It's not because we have all sorts of problems every day where we're not being a very, kind and welcoming community, but it's to make a statement about who we are and what we are. So after the council hears it, they'll decide if they want to sign on to this or not. And that may happen at this next meeting, or they may take it under advisement.
Okay, let's move on to a special meeting request. This could be an interesting one, and it has to do with a possible shared site with our Public Works. Is that right?
Yeah, Tom. Back in July, the Board of Public Works and the Council authorized a consultant, Barrientos, from Milwaukee, to do an investigation. There's an 18-acre parcel that the county owns down on South Galvin Avenue. And we've been trying to find a way to move our Public Works Department out of downtown for a long time, the street division. I say this all the time, but I'm going to say it one more time. When you drive into a city, you don't really expect to see what we have right now on Veterans Parkway, a garage with snow plows and loaders in the yard. That's a needed use, but you don't really want it in your downtown. So we've been trying to figure out how to make this palatable. Well, it turns out that Wood County owns this property, and they're looking at having it for highway department use. Well, what if we can work together? What if it can be a shared site? And so Barrientos has been looking at that for the last few months. Different things, maybe a shared site in which we're really connected and share resources and the building. Maybe one in which we share the property, but we're separate. What would they cost? What would the benefits and drawbacks be? So we want to have a special meeting at 5 o'clock on Tuesday the 25th, right before the regular council meeting that night. Have Wood County officials here, city officials here, and have Barrientos present the results. Here's our findings. Here's the three options that you could do if you went together to make this a joint site for the county and city. Here's what they cost. Here's the pros and cons of each. No decisions will be made that night, but we'd like to see the council have this discussion, have the county officials with us, and see where it leads. I know that some of our officials, Dan Kinect and others, have been working on trying to see if this is palatable and feasible, and we look forward to that report.
Yeah, definitely. And it is a council meeting, considered special council meeting.
Correct.
Because we don't have a committee of the whole here. We call it a council.
Council meeting.
So I'll be broadcasting that, I'm assuming, that night.
Yes,
so tune in, and if it does go through, they'll pick a date, right? Did we have a date?
Yeah, and I have kind of had a staff member kind of feel them out on the fact that they are available. So I mean, okay. I expect them to approve this and set this for the 25th at 5 p.m. But formally, we need to make this a motion at a council meeting. to set up the special meeting. But what we'll do that night, Tom, is we'll probably have a meeting from 5 to like 5:55. Make sure we have a 5-minute break for getting a drink or going to the bathroom, and then start the regular meeting at 6.
Okay, yes, that's our regular second meeting of the month, so
Correct.
should be pretty easy. All right, we're still talking about Fire and Police Commission member. That's been vacant for what, 4 months, I'm guessing?
Yeah,
From like a retirement, in a way, I'd call it a retirement.
Yeah, Gordy Earl, who's done such great service for the city. I can't say enough about Gordy as a council member and a member of the Fire and Police Commission. He did decide to step aside, and we've had a couple people brought forward, and we haven't had one approved. We had a gentleman who ultimately it came out that being coroner for Wood County, that there's a possible conflict with his role in the PFC. So anyway, Wayne Schultz is on for consideration. He was put forward by Nick Paschal, the council president, on December 23rd, and his name will be before the council for approval on Tuesday night. It will be nice when we get the Fire and Police Commission back to full strength, as I call it, 5 members, because as we talked about earlier, in fact we talked about in our year in review, the fire and police chiefs are both positions that are going through recruitment right now, and we really want somebody on board to be part of making those important decisions. So we'll see where that goes, but that will be at the end of the open session on Tuesday night.
Okay, and then, well, let's just talk about one item in closed session that you would like to highlight.
Yeah, we normally can't talk a lot about closed session. The reason why is because it's confidential, but one of the items on here, Tom, is to acquire new land for industrial development. And I don't think it's any secret. It's been out there for 20 years that we have an agreement with the UW system that someday we wanted to be able to acquire 125 acres adjacent to the Yellowstone Industrial Park. We're growing. We've had a lot of building lately, in projects, and we need more land. Sometimes somebody will call and say, look, I'm interested in coming to your city. I need 30 acres. Well, right now, Tom, our biggest parcel out there is nowhere near 30 acres. So we want to get more land for industrial development, and the agreement we have with UW says that we would be able to someday purchase some. So right now we're just working out some of the issues and details that I can't go into, but we're hopeful that sometime in the coming months we'll be able to announce that we have acquired that land, and we'll be able to look at the possibility of more industrial growth, which would be good for the community.
Most definitely. All right, well, that brings us to a close of this program. Anything else, Steve? Otherwise, we'll probably sign off until our next one in 2 weeks.
Yeah, people don't know this, but we just taped the year in review program right before this, and I find myself looking at you and thinking about this right now, Tom. A year from now, what will be the joys and the struggles of 2022? We have no idea. You have no idea for your personal life as well. But it's exciting, the opportunities that we have to see some positive things happen, and we will continue to pursue them.
Yeah, and we're there's always challenges in life.
Oh, absolutely.
But like having a strategic plan, comprehensive plan, all those things helps us guide so we can hopefully have a good 2022 outlook. That's what I look at.
Yeah, and things come up. COVID came up in the middle of 2020. Well, you can't say, well, we're not going to look at COVID because we got to do all these projects. So life changes, but that strategic plan I think will help keep us on track.
Exactly. Well, I want to thank our viewers for joining us on our council preview programs, possibly our council members and our city staff that are watching this before council. It gives you a little bit of insight of what's going to happen before that meeting, and then we always do a wrap-up on the Wednesday of the council meeting. You get to do that with our post-council news conference. So if you want to know what happened afterwards, that's another way to tune in. But I think the before is good because then you have a chance to come and do citizen comment before our meeting. So if there's something in here or even that's not on this agenda, come on down. You have 5 minutes to speak before the meeting, and the council is all ears because that's at the beginning of the meeting, so we have most attention at that time.
It is, and I want to challenge our viewers right now, whether you're seeing us on whatever platform, let's make this the year of more citizen input. Maybe you've been thinking for a long time, I want to let them know what I think, and you've just never done it. Make this the year that you reach out and tell your officials, whether they be elected or appointed, in any way you see fit, what your thoughts are, what your suggestions are. We need them. That's how we get better.
That's right. All right, we'll close. Steve, thanks again for joining me on the council preview. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and that'll be here before we know it. All right, take care, everyone out there in our TV land. Thanks again.